In the midst and the aftermath of horrible incidents like the shooting in Orlando a week ago, we often find extraordinary heroism and amazing grace. At Pulse nightclub, partiers turned into amateur medics, saving lives in the chaos. In Charleston, families of the victims faced the shooter to somehow offer their forgiveness. Harry Smith has the story of the surprising awakening that came out of one shooting last year.
Ted Haakey Jr. has admitted he had too much to drink that night. He'd been posting anti-Muslim messages on Facebook for months, and enraged by the scenes unfolding in France, he grabbed a gun, aimed next door, and pulled the trigger.
The bullet came straight through the prayer hall, through the internal dividing wall, and out through the women's side as well. So it penetrated 3 walls.
The Marine veteran was arrested and pled guilty to a hate crime. But in the months since, something remarkable happened.
Would it be safe to say that you were guilty of stupidity?
Absolutely, of course. Of ignorance. Because if I had knocked on the door next door and realized that what they were all about, it would even been a question.
After the shooting, Haakey requested to meet with the mosque's leaders. He asked them for their forgiveness.
It brought discredit upon myself, the Marine Corps, everything I stand for. This just isn't me.
And they did forgive him.
To my congregation, I'm going to ask you to greet and meet and hug Mr. Haakey and Mrs. Haakey, just like a Muslim should treat his or her neighbor.
The enemy next door became a friend. In fact, he became more than a friend.
First he was a shooter, and then he was our neighbor, and then he was a friend, and he became my brother when he prayed with me side by side and bowed his head in prayer, and he didn't have to do that.
A lot of the Muslims are very upset that their religion is being hijacked by people who don't follow the Quran. And that's what we need to realize, so that when you do see Muslims, you're not so, stepping away. You need to get educated, and the only way to beat this is with them on our side.
Friday morning, Ted Haakey Jr. was in court to learn what sentence he'd received for his crime. Also at the courthouse, members of the mosque he shot at.
We were here to show our support and solidarity with Mr. Haakey, who's our new friend.
They were there because they believe Haakey does not deserve jail time.
This guy shot a gun at your congregation, at your house of worship.
But he was ignorant. But now that he knows, his heart has totally changed. And, it's one person at a time, as we call it, one drop in the ocean, but, 150 million to go, so we'll keep going.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
Neither Haakey nor his neighbors had made any effort to become acquainted. They were strangers, content to be apart, and that, they acknowledge, was a mistake.
Loving your neighbor is something that creates solace and tranquility in society and understanding. So you want to reach out to them to create that dialogue and to create that seed of love.
We teach our children that oftentimes the things they fear are simply unfamiliar. Hatred for Muslims, or hatred for gays, or hatred for anyone who seems to be something other than ourselves is based in that kind of fear. A fear of convenience. Because sometimes it's just easier to hate than it is to find out who lives next door.
And Harry Smith joins me now live. A remarkable 180 turnaround for Ted Haakey. Is the remorse real?
Boy, that's a really good question, right? So the judge did sentence him to 6 months. He's already done some time, so it won't be 6 months altogether. It's less than the guidelines would suggest. He was hoping, I think, that, do you see the remorse that I have? Do you see that I'm a changed person? And that would have a larger influence. And amazing to be in the courtroom. And here are half a dozen members of this congregation sitting there. The head of the congregation gets up and talks to the judge and says, this guy is remorseful already.
Where do they find that forgiveness, though, Harry, for somebody who raised a rifle and shot into their place of worship?
You know what? I think he came to them. He said, I want to talk to those people. And they believed that he's sincere. He says that when he gets out of prison, he'll come back and he's going to work with his neighbors and he's going to talk to folks who would not have believed this kind of thing could have happened.
What a story. Harry Smith, thank you, and happy Father's Day, my friend.
Same to you, sir.
Good to see you.